The aroma of burnt coffee and frying bacon was a permanent fixture in the air of the city diner. The morning rush was in full swing, with the counter alive with the buzz of conversations, the sizzle of the grill, and the rhythmic clatter of stacked plates. Amidst the chaos was Lena Petrova. She was hard to miss, not because she sought attention, but because she worked with the efficiency of 3 people. Her hair was pulled back, and her apron already bore the marks of a busy morning. She adeptly carried steaming mugs in her good hand, using her hip to balance a stack of plates. Her other hand, the left one, was swathed in bandages that extended to her wrist. Anyone paying close attention would notice the stiffness in her movements, the quick flinch when her injured hand accidentally brushed against something. Yet Lena's face remained a mask of cheerfulness, a smile serving as her shield. Behind the counter, the manager, Marcus, leaned against the register, a smirk on his face as he barked orders. "Hustle, Lena! Don't keep them waiting! This isn't a charity!" His voice sliced through the diner's din, loud enough for customers to hear. A few people looked up, shaking their heads and whispering. At a nearby booth, 2 women in business suits leaned in, their voices barely audible. "Poor thing. Look at her hand. She shouldn't even be working." "Yeah, but Marcus never gives her a break. He's always on her case. I don't know how she takes it." Lena heard them. She heard everything. The laughter, the pity, the constant digs from Marcus. She heard every critique about her pace, which was slower than usual due to her injury. Still, she kept moving, because for her, quitting was never an option. Rent didn't wait. Bills didn't care. By mid-morning, a sheen of sweat glistened on the back of her neck. Her good arm ached from the unaccustomed weight it had to bear, alone. She set down an order for a table of 6, murmured a soft, "Enjoy your meal," and turned, only to collide with Marcus. A glass of water slipped from her hand, splashing across his shirt. The diner fell silent. Marcus leaned in so close, she could smell the stale coffee on his breath. Clumsy again. Just looking for an excuse to slack off, aren't you? A few customers shifted uncomfortably. Someone muttered, "Man, give her a break." But Marcus ignored them, his eyes fixed on Lena like a predator savoring the hunt. She mumbled an apology, reaching for a towel with her good hand, but he snatched it away. His lips curled into a grin that only she could see, a gesture that told her this wasn't about the spilled water. It was about power. And the worst part was, she knew why. Weeks earlier, she had overheard Marcus bragging about skimming money from the register. She hadn't meant to listen. She was just cleaning tables after closing when his voice drifted through the thin office door. At first, she thought she must have misheard, but when she pressed her ear closer, every word confirmed her fears. Marcus was stealing, and when he caught her outside that night, frozen in the hallway, she recalled the flash of anger in his eyes, the way his hand had shot out and twisted her wrist until something inside had cracked. The searing pain had brought her to her knees, but Marcus had only sneered. "Clumsy, huh? Better keep it that way. One word about what you heard, and you won't just lose your job." Now, with her hand useless and bound, she was the one being branded as incompetent. By the end of her shift, Lena's body trembled from exhaustion. She leaned against the back counter, whispering a quiet prayer that no one heard. She didn't know it yet, but someone had been watching her every move. Someone she thought was just another customer. And that quiet gaze was about to change everything. Most customers came and went without a second thought, eating their pancakes, tipping generously if they felt like it, and rushing back into the world. But one man never seemed to be in a hurry. He was older, perhaps in his late 60s, with a neatly trimmed shock of white hair and boots that had seen more highways than city streets. People referred to him as the Professor because of his scholarly demeanor, a straight-backed posture even when seated and sharp, observant eyes. Everyone assumed he was just a retired academic, passing the time over a plate of eggs. No one knew that Arthur Vance was the actual owner of the diner. For years, Arthur had kept his identity a secret, preferring to blend in with the regular crowd. He believed you saw the truth when people thought no one important was looking. That morning, Arthur stirred his coffee slowly, his gaze fixed on Lena. He'd been watching her for weeks now, always working harder than the others, always the one Marcus targeted. But today, with her hand bound in thick bandages, it was different. Every tray she carried looked like it might slip at any second. Every smile seemed forced through a veil of pain. At the next booth, two young men whispered loud enough for Arthur to hear. "Man, that manager has it out for her." "Yeah, I've seen the others slack off plenty, but he never says a word to them. Just her." Arthur's jaw tightened. He had run businesses long enough to recognize bias and cruelty when he saw it. Marcus strode past Arthur's table, laughing at something on his phone. When Lena asked for help carrying a heavy stack of dishes, Marcus didn't even glance at her. Instead, he muttered, "Use both hands." "Oh, wait. You can't." His chuckle cut through the diner like a rusty saw. Arthur didn't move. He didn't react. But inside, his blood simmered. Later, while Lena wiped down a counter, Arthur caught the faintest wince in her eyes when she bent her wrist too far. He also noticed the way she avoided Marcus, like someone who had learned that getting too close meant danger. Something wasn't adding up. When the lunch crowd thinned, Arthur quietly asked for the manager. Marcus swaggered over, assuming it was just another customer complaint. "Food not hot enough? Coffee too bitter?" He smirked. Arthur shook his head. "I was just wondering about that waitress. She's injured. Why is she working the floor?" Marcus's grin faltered for a split second before returning. "Her? She's a klutz, always messing up. Half the reports in this place are on her, but she begged to stay on the shift, so I let her. You know, I'm generous like that." Arthur nodded slowly, though inside, every word from Marcus's mouth tasted like a lie. Generous? No. He'd seen the sneer. He'd heard the whispers. He'd seen Lena push through her pain just to keep her dignity. That night, Arthur sat alone at the corner booth long after most had gone. His coffee had long since gone cold and untouched. He watched Lena cleaning tables with her good hand, still offering faint smiles to strangers, even though her eyes were heavy with fatigue. The old academic narrowed his eyes. If Marcus claimed Lena was the problem, then Arthur was going to find out for himself. And if what he suspected was true, someone in this diner was about to regret underestimating both her and him. The next day, Arthur returned to the diner. Same corner booth, same black coffee. To everyone else, he looked like the same old professor, with nowhere better to be. But his eyes weren't on the menu. They were on Marcus. Marcus strutted from table to table, cracking jokes with customers, laughing louder than anyone else. But the moment Lena walked by, his face hardened. He scrutinized her every move. If she poured coffee too slowly, he snapped his fingers. If she wiped the counter twice instead of once, he smirked and muttered about wasting time. Arthur noticed a pattern. It wasn't just criticism. It was targeted. And when Lena dropped a single fork, Marcus shook his head dramatically, telling a nearby table, "See what I have to deal with? Always careless." Customers chuckled nervously, unsure if he was serious. Lena bent down, her good hand trembling, cheeks burning with shame. By now, Arthur's suspicion had turned into certainty. Marcus was setting her up. That afternoon, Arthur slipped into the back office under the pretense of looking for the restroom. The door was unlocked, papers scattered across the desk. His eyes landed on a stack of misconduct forms. Page after page had Lena's name scrawled across the top. Each one accused her of petty things, spilled drinks, forgotten orders, a bad attitude. But Arthur had eaten there for months. He'd never once seen Lena act out of line. He flipped further and found something worse. Cash register tallies that didn't add up. Every week the numbers dipped, but no reports had been filed. His stomach sank. He knew what theft looked like. He'd caught men in his old businesses before. Marcus wasn't just cruel. He was dirty. That night, Arthur stayed longer than usual, sipping his coffee while the diner emptied. As the last customers left, Marcus retreated to the office. The door didn't close all the way, and voices drifted out. "Another $5,000 easy," Marcus bragged, his laughter echoing into the hallway. "And when they notice the cash missing, that little waitress takes the fall. She's already got the most write-ups. Nobody's going to believe her over me." A second voice, one of Marcus's friends, snorted. "You're playing with fire, man. What if she talks?" Marcus's voice dropped, turning colder. "She won't." "Not with that hand. Broke it good enough to remind her who's in charge." Arthur froze in the shadows, his fists curling tight, the air in his chest growing heavy, each breath slower, harder. This wasn't just theft. It was abuse. Deliberate, physical, and targeted. He thought of Lena smiling through the pain, carrying on as if nothing had happened, and something inside him twisted. The conversation inside ended with drunken laughter. Arthur slipped out the side door into the night, the cool air a sharp contrast to his internal rage. For the first time in years, his instincts stirred. He'd seen injustice in the world, but to find it festering in his own business. He wouldn't let it stand. The truth was out, and tomorrow the mask would come off. The morning rush returned like clockwork. Coffee pots hissed, forks clinked, voices rose and fell across the diner. Lena moved between tables, her wrapped hand stiff against her apron. To most, she looked like just another tired worker pushing through her pain. To Arthur, she looked like someone carrying a weight far heavier than dishes. But today wasn't going to be just another day. Arthur entered quietly. Same boots, same jacket, but this time his shoulders were squared differently. He wasn't here as a customer. He was here as the owner. Marcus was by the counter, laughing too loudly, joking with two waitresses who rolled their eyes when his back was turned. The second he saw Arthur, his grin faltered. "You again? Back for the eggs?" Arthur didn't answer. Instead, he walked to the middle of the diner and tapped his spoon gently against his coffee cup. The soft metallic ring drew curious looks from every booth. Conversations quieted. Forks paused mid-air. Lena froze mid-step, her eyes darting toward him. "Morning, everyone," Arthur began, his voice calm but firm. "I think it's time you all knew who I really am." Marcus chuckled nervously. "What, you're writing a book or something?" Arthur's gaze locked on him. "No, I own this diner." The room went dead silent. A fork clattered onto a plate. Lena's eyes widened, her lips parting in shock. For years, nobody knew the old man at the corner booth was the one signing their paychecks. Marcus barked out a laugh, though his face had drained pale. You're joking." Arthur pulled a folder from under his jacket and placed it on the counter. Pages spilled out. Misconduct reports, financial sheets, photocopied register logs. "I've watched long enough. I know what you've been doing, Marcus. Every false report you filed against Lena. Every dollar you skimmed from the register. And I know what you did to her hand." Gasps rippled through the diner. Customers turned in their seats. The two women from the business table whispered, "I knew it. I knew he was dirty." Marcus stammered, his voice cracking. This is ridiculous. You can't prove—" Before he could finish, two uniformed officers walked through the door. Arthur had called them that morning. Their presence alone silenced the room. Marcus's bravado shattered. Wait. You can't. This isn't. But the cuffs snapped around his wrists before he could finish. The diner erupted in murmurs as Marcus was led out, his protests drowned beneath the clink of the chains. Lena stood frozen, her good hand pressed against her chest. For once, Marcus wasn't looming over her. For once, the weight of blame had shifted. Arthur turned to her, his voice softer now. You've carried this place on your back. While others lied about you, you kept it running. From today forward, you're not just a waitress. You're the new floor supervisor. Lena blinked, tears welling in her eyes. The bandage on her hand trembled as she pressed it against her lips, a muffled sob escaping. Customers clapped, some quietly, some loud enough to echo. And for the first time in years, Lena straightened her shoulders, not as the woman people pitied, but as someone finally seen for who she truly was. Outside, Marcus's shouts faded as the police car pulled away. Inside, the diner smelled the same of burnt coffee and grease. But the air felt different, lighter, cleaner. Arthur sat back at his usual booth, coffee in hand. But this time, he wasn't just watching. He was smiling because justice had finally been served. Never underestimate the quiet strength of those who keep showing up, even when the world tries to break them. Lena's story proves that truth always wins, and justice always finds the guilty,